Okay.
Okay. It being 2 o'clock, I call this meeting to order. March meeting of the AAB. If I could have everybody stand, please. We can recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jenkins, would you be so kind as to let us know who's here
Absolutely.
in the event that it's not obvious?
In attendance today, we have Carl Flanagan.
Here.
Louise Michaels.
Yes.
Keith Polius.
Good job. Here.
Charles Carr.
Yep.
Heiko Kallenbach.
Here.
And absent, we have George McDonald.
Who is busy down in Lake Okeechobee, hopefully not feeding the alligators. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, once again. First order of business, if I could get a motion, please, to approve the minutes from last month. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review them.
I make a motion to approve it.
A second.
Moved by Mr. Michaels, second by Mr. Flanagan. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. The motion carries. Turn our meeting open to the public, or do we have other business in the
Well,
meeting?
no, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that Andy is here in spirit. Andy?
I see him.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, the ethereal voice from afar. How are you, Andy? How's the drive going?
I'm good. Thank you guys for setting up the virtual. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we really need video, though, man. We want to see where you're off to. Nothing, huh? Okay. Well, since you're on the line, Andy, would you like to go first?
Not really much to say. I guess we kind of caught up yesterday, and I'm sure you guys will go over that during the meeting. So we're rocking and rolling at Inverness. Mesa program's still going well, and excited to have the meeting next so we can get some hangars built.
Sounds good. Anything else?
That's all for now.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Public speaking time? Goody, Holly, Charles?
I can give an update on Crystal River if you like.
Sure, that'd be great.
Crystal River Airport is being painted at this time. Goody Davis, Crystal River Airport.
And where do you live?
Well, they started on the painting project of the main hangar. They have cleaned it up the last couple days, and they're getting ready to paint. Paint looked a little pale, and we were a little worried that it wouldn't fit with the existing buildings, but then we found out today that it will receive a sealer and that will darken it some. So it should be fine. It should end up like all the hangars on the north side of the east-west runway. And that's what we want, to have everything looking the same. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I did bring, Chris River does have a security plan. We are not required to have one because we don't have a 5,000-foot runway, but Tom had one in place, I think, early 2000s. After 9/11, we put one in place, and so we have one, and we'll update it to the new standards. So we just talked about that yesterday with Quincy, and we'll bring it up to date. I think it's pretty close already, but we'll make sure it's adequate. We'll have to have one anyways when we get the 5,000 feet. As far as that Austin Healy group, I don't know where that is. Do you, Quincy?
We were working with them, and as y'all recall, I believe I discussed some at the last meeting about the bicycle event that we had at Inverness, and we kind of got our hands slapped from the FAA, and as part of that, making amends with the FAA, we had to develop a fee schedule, which we determined to be $700 a day. And so I mentioned that to Mr. Orja,
Water.
he kind of frowned upon that, and he was kind of at the same time looking someplace else to have it. So long story short is on the backside of the school complex, there's a driving training grounds. And so they got approval to have it there. So that's where it's going to be.
It was getting a little bit too complicated, and we couldn't get quick answers from the FAA. Everything was being delayed, so I'm
Yep.
glad they found another.
It worked out.
Yeah, that's all I have. Okay.
Thank you, Goody. Anything more from the public? Quincy? We have new business in front of us, I see.
Yes, there's actually a new item that I did not get on the agenda. It's been kind of evolving. We had a situation at the Inverness Airport where the FBO has a trailer there that's kind of a makeshift for student pilots to sleep at. And he opened it to an Airbnb, which the first person, how are we going to word this? The first customer that was there had a disagreement with Andy, so they reported something to the building or the health department, who reported it to the county attorney, who reported it to the county administrator's office, and came down to me. So we've been kind of working on that issue at this point. One thing being that some consider that to be a security breach because he gave that person the code over an email, but that might be a little different than our email system because ours is open to the public. But Andy, whether that's a security issue or not, is yet to be determined. As a result of that, we quickly changed the gate code, and we contacted the FAA. Not right away, we were just waiting until this was getting answers to everything and all, but we talked to the FAA last week, and we're waiting on a response from them. When I told them the whole situation, they weren't as concerned about the security issue because, as you all know, our airports has a gate code, and you go into the office, sign a form, and you get the code. That form says you will not give out the code, so forth. So many people have the code, especially at Inverness, because the airboaters access the airport for fuel, and so do the race car drivers. So the FAA knew that. They weren't as concerned, not that they weren't concerned, they weren't as concerned about it being a security issue as the fact that the airport, you can't have resident activity on an airport. Evidently, that's been done at a lot of airports over the years, but it's always been a non-issue until recently something happened. I didn't get into details with the FAA person. Something happened a couple years ago, and so now the FAA has been cracking down on that issue. So they are drafting an email back to us. We're waiting to get that email before we meet with Andy to discuss what has to be done further to rectify this situation. But Andy did explain that that was a hard learning situation, and it was a one-time done deal. They're not going to do an Airbnb. So, but the other issue is whether we can, which the FAA was very clear on, you cannot allow student pilots to sleep at the airport. So we're waiting on an email back from the FAA. He said he should have it to me next week or tomorrow.
Did you get the sense that there's going to be any sort of blowback, bad blowback, as in disciplinary action taken against anybody, or is this one of these things, don't do it again?
I didn't get that sense at that time, but I know from discussions with the person I deal with regularly at the FAA is an engineer. And when I was talking to her, she didn't think it was, as major an issue, but then when she got me in touch with the planner who knows all the rules and so forth, and he explained to me he would have to draft a response and send it through his directors, bosses. So I don't know at this point whether we'll get much blowback or not.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed and keep a sharp eye out for whatever implications whatever reading between the tea leaves we get from the FAA.
Yes.
I mean, we're all trying to do the right thing here, and I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not sure there's a reason to get people in trouble over something that they didn't realize they weren't allowed to do.
Right. So that's partly why Goody, or I was talking to James the other day about the security plan. Why she brought that up is because that issue came up about the security plans for both airports. And as Goody said, Inverness is required to have one because it's a 5,000-foot runway. We're required to update it every 2 years. We've been a little slow in updating. I've been waiting on some documentation from Andy, who is working on his side of it, to get that to me to finalize a draft that I've been holding on to for several months now. So the Inverness one is in the process of being updated. And talking with James, now the Crystal River one is going to be updated as well. So even though it's not required.
Any other questions or comments on this issue?
I just think that.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, just to clarify, yes, we did that one time and we are no longer doing that. In our opinion, it's a non-issue. And if housing is not allowed, then, you know, the sheriff stays overnight 24 hours a day at times. Air Methods maintains housing for their medical personnel. And previously we had approval from the county for student housing that was run by the FAA. So I'd like to explain that, you know, we did have approval for that throughout the process. Also, the major security concern I have brought before the board many times, and I'd like to be on record, that the sheriff does not provide adequate security, and we have failed to improve that, and there is no making a big deal out of an old lady that has a code after the code is changed is very interesting when we fail continuously to improve airport security in meaningful ways. So I see this as a wasted chasing a rabbit when it's not necessary, when indeed we have real security concerns that we have not addressed, including allowing people to fly at the airport who are not certificated and not taking any action on that. So I think if we're going to address security concerns, we should address the real concerns rather than ones that are a moot point.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, moving on.
Okay. The new business land development code application, Joe is here to discuss that.
Yep, good afternoon. So as you guys recall, last month we came to you for a recommendation on a construction use permit. The board had some concerns because it wasn't clear if the FAA's approval included the runway extension. So we did reach out to the applicant. They went to the FAA, and you should have the email from the FAA basically stating that they were aware of the construction extension and they still had no concerns. It was part of their approval. So we are asking for a recommendation one way or the other as to what to do with this construction use permit for the land use change that's coming next month.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was, as far as I can recall, our only concern, that we did in fact know for sure that the FAA had taken that into consideration. Obviously they did, and I think this addresses all the concerns that I heard last month. Does anybody else have any additional concerns?
I think the answer is adequate. Still a little bit concerned about more housing close to the airport, but I don't know anything you can do about it.
Well, maybe we can just have the traffic pattern be north of the airport.
We could. Then we get pressure points.
That's right, that's right. Okay, and that being the case, could I have a motion, please, to recommend that the land development code application be adopted?
I would make that recommendation.
I second.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Made by Carl and seconded by Luis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you, sir.
And thank you for your patience. Next.
Yes, sir. The next one is the aviation CIP. You have the draft CIP before you, I believe, and was sent to you ahead of time. Just let me know if you have any comments on it. I apologize for giving
So this is now
Danae the one that I made markups on, but that is truly a draft.
the all these various projects.
Yeah, there wasn't really a need to mark that one as draft. It's pretty obvious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe I have my meeting with management budget department next week, 21st, to go over this CIP.
Holly, have you seen this?
CIP. I have a folder literally this thick sitting on my dining table for everything to do with the airports.
And you've read every page of it, I'm sure.
Not yet.
Do you have any comments for us on?
It's literally about 1,700 pages.
Right, right.
So I need to sit down and read that before our report workshop.
Got it. So I've read through this, and as far as it goes, it certainly covers a lot of pieces. The one question I have is there are some things on here that we've been talking about. As an example, the request that Crystal Air Group had made for the canopies and the exterior restroom thing, that is not on here. Is there a reason why that's not on here? Because we thought that was already put through the budgeting process and the funding process previously.
I see you want me to be on record for this.
So, interesting last meeting where we ended up pulling the ground leases in favor of an airport workshop. I am choosing to believe that this is a positive thing, that the county as a whole is taking this very seriously. We want economic development, and we understand that both airports are shining assets that we need to leverage to do more economic development. Which, by the way, I'm just going to say one more time that the more businesses we have paying taxes, the less we as residents pay. They pay a lot more than residents do, and we are dramatically upside down on that score. Back to the issue at hand. The only thing that I managed to push through, I didn't want to spend the political capital to push the canopies through, since we're just basically waiting for this workshop to decide most things, is we did a $1,700 security camera. That's the only thing we approved that day, because security is security. We recently had a really bad theft. I think it was 8 months ago at Crystal River Airport. So certainly security cameras would be helpful. The canopies are within the 23,000, is that right, Crystal funds, 23,000-ish?
Well, yes, but let's discuss that. It's
Okay.
19,000. However, we got a new quote for that just a couple days ago. So I sent that to Carl, my director, asking, because I thought it was on hold to put that with the overhang of the sidewalk in the bathroom. But since that's not going to move forward now, I was thinking, well, we're going to move forward with this. So I talked to Carl, and he said, yes, let's move forward with it. Well, I went out and took a picture of the one that they put over on Metacrest building, and
It's
sent that.
$50,000 now?
No, it's only $19,000.
Okay.
But I sent the picture to James last night, asking his if he liked this style, whatever. We could pick a color later, and he said that he would prefer that they had pressure washed the existing canopy that's over the windows right now, and he would prefer that we hold off on doing anything to save the money for the other project instead. So at this point,
Which is precisely why I didn't push that through.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's all get in a room together, okay? Workshop this. If any of you show, I guess we'll have to ask legal opinion if this board can show up in our chambers and just sit separately or whatever. Theoretically, since it's a publicly noticed meeting, theoretically, all of you can attend the workshop, I think. I get into trouble all the time in this job, so you never know. But the idea, as a fiscal conservative, I don't want to waste money. So if we're going to do that and then in a year do the overhang with the restrooms, let's not spend the $19,000. It's just $19,000 and a $400 million budget, but $19,000 adds up.
At the same time, and Goody, correct me if I'm wrong, at least for what I understand with James, the 19,000 that he was talking about was the overhang all the way out to the parking lot with the restroom.
That's 156, or right around 160,000 for that.
Okay.
19,000 is separate, just to replace the canopy that's currently over the windows.
You think the price of eggs is bad? You should be in my shoes.
No, I'm not surprised about the price. I'm surprised about my misunderstanding of what James has been talking about. So if
He wants the walkway covered
right.
from the building to the parking lot. That has been an issue. The existing cameras is fine.
Okay, and what I thought we were talking about last month that we were recommending the board adopt is the covered walkway out to the street and the restroom.
Yes, that's something that you all recommended, and it went on the agenda for their approval, and the BOCC stopped it and said, let's have a workshop.
Because that's 150,000, that's not the 19,000.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Would you like a less than, probably about a 3-minute rundown of the overall landscape, since all of you are obviously committed citizens that have a lot to do with and I'm not flattering you, the success of all of this? Okay.
Sure.
The overall landscape is, we have a much more forward-thinking board now. We have a ridiculously more forward-thinking county administrator. He is on fire. He is looking for a lot more funding sources, yada, yada, yada. I cannot emphasize enough how Byzantine the level of information that I have to store in my head to make decisions. It's difficult. So if you look at the landscape of the demographics of this county, we are heavily retired, heavily non-working, heavily tourism, service-based, and medical, right? That means the tax burden is all on our shoulders. We also are saddled with the homestead exemption, okay? Which means if your house is valued at somewhere in the 200 to 300,000 range, you're break even for us. If your house is valued less, and I'm not one of those people, the county spends more to support you as a resident than you pay in taxes. That is untenable. We don't have a local option sales tax. We seek grants. We are like the poor kid begging in Tallahassee. We work our tails off as a commission and as a county to bring some of our tax dollars back. It turns out that we are not getting nearly the federal dollars we should be getting. Gus Bilirakis is going to help us start to get the federal dollars too. But at some point, we do have to actually pay some of our own bills. So we are probably going to be, it's going to be on one of our, I think it's on this agenda. Lord help me. I think it's on this agenda that Neighbors in Giblin is going to be approved to do a study on alternate funding sources. So for example, looking at what the competitive set is, okay? The way we fix our current tax issue is to bring in businesses, period, full stop, especially those that are paying $80, $90, $150,000 for professional services type jobs, right? Or skilled manufacturing. That is what will right our boat. That's what's going to get our roads paved without impoverishing us residents, right? The way we bring those in is we have to be in the competitive set of the surrounding counties. If you look at Marion County, their millage rate on their real estate is about, please don't hold me to this, but it's like roughly just over half of what ours is, okay? But they have an MSBU or an MSTU for everything, okay? So now I have to balance the little old lady who's living on $800 a month in Social Security in Beverly Hills. Hitting her with multiple MSBUs is going to be a big problem. But our way forward is to do MSBUs, right? Because that is just basically a flat tax that goes by millage. So it's there is no homestead exemption on these things, right? So this is what we're trying to move towards. So this, to wrap it up, to back what James wants and what Andy and James want for the two airports, I'm all in favor of us improving both of those airports dramatically, even though it'll be very expensive. But we all have to take a deep breath, plan for the future, and figure out the funding as we move forward, right? So we're about to get our growth figures. June 1st, we'll get our growth figures and know what the current millage rate is bringing in tax. Because we all know we're growing like crazy, right? But there's going to be a lag. You have to have certificate of occupancy, and then people start paying taxes and blah, blah, blah. So that's the kind of stuff that goes on in all of our heads on a regular basis. So deep breath, plan for the future. We're growing like crazy. And the worst thing that we have done in the past as a county is not plan. We have to have those plans in place. We just have to not be discouraged or put them aside permanently when they don't happen overnight. And I'm sorry for the long-winded explanation, but I wanted you to understand why that's very, very true. So please be forward-thinking. And I love this board. You know that. Obviously, it's near and dear to my heart.
Thank you very much. So, one quick, actually, we have a couple of questions for you. Holly?
Pardon?
Have a couple of questions.
I just wanted to make a comment, Holly, is, I've got a client from out of state, that flew in, not too long ago. He was going to make, an acquisition. He came, he landed at the Crystal River Airport, and, he had a meal from Dairy Queen. Actually, he was getting ready to take off. He requested the pilot to hold short. That he wanted to get something to eat before they left. He thought that Citrus County was a very beautiful area. He was hoping to have made the acquisition. Subsequently, I was up visiting him last Thursday, and he was not able to get the numbers to work. But this is just to let the board know there are people, and I'm going to say very
High dollar people.
high net worth. This gentleman is very high net worth.
Yep.
That we would want to come here, but we are getting some visibility.
So they're coming, and they're not necessarily rejecting us because our paint has not been updated and the canopy hasn't been power washed, but it would help.
But that's where I was going to go. Is it would really bode well for someone to fly in their personal jet to see
And have
the
it
area
look a little more Sarasota
that
at the airports.
huh?
A little more Sarasota at the
Yeah, well,
airports.
yeah, okay, yeah. I would agree. But again,
Just a little more, not a
attention is
lot.
being
Just a little.
noticed. If we could just kind of ante up
Yep.
with our aesthetics.
And to her credit, our chair, Ruthie Schlebaugh, brought that up at the very first retreat I attended 2 years ago for when we were newly seated on the board, and I'm blind to it. You know, that's so funny. That's why we do marketing for other people in my personal businesses, because you're blind to your own stuff. And she's like, yeah, that furniture is just really tacky and the whole lobbies and blah, blah, blah. And we need to spruce up both airports, you know, the front lobbies and whatnot. And I went, yeah, you got a point. So anyway, thank you, Carl.
Absolutely.
And thank you too, from personal standpoint, and I think a lot of us owe a lot of debt of gratitude to you and obviously your dad and Goody, and thank you for your support of this board. And you know, we're here to do whatever we need to do to continue to advance aviation in Citrus County.
Yes, sir.
What is it that you would like of us with respect to the CIP that we have in hand here?
What I would really love is y'all's full participation in the workshop whenever it is scheduled.
Okay.
And it's May 23rd is what it's scheduled right now.
I don't remember.
You just told me.
Oh, for the regular workshop, yes. I thought you were saying.
No, the
CIP
workshop, no, the airport
The
workshop.
airport workshop is the 23rd, yes.
Okay, so are you back by the 23rd? Okay,
I
then
come back on
whatever,
the 24th.
then whatever our first meeting is in June is when we'll target that, so everybody can look at that on their calendar.
We can't do it 2 weeks before on the 9th, May 9th? Just throwing that out
We
there.
have a lot to put together. We cut it as quick as we thought we could. We had a meeting with
Okay.
Frank, our economic
Airports are
development
one important cog of a lot of cogs.
guy.
So,
So,
Let me see if I can move some things around then. Actually, I can't.
Where is the workshop?
it'll be held in room 100 at the Inverness Courthouse. And it'll be held probably 9 a.m., 10 a.m., something like that. Airport, this could go a while. I would suggest 9 a.m.
Can we confirm that
Commissioners need
we're
a
allowed
lunch
to be
break
there?
before 1.
yes.
Pardon?
I just wanted to confirm, have Quincy confirm that we are able to show up.
Yes. I mean, this is a really great opportunity for this board, for myself, for any aviation enthusiasts in the county to really think about where we want to go, what we want to do, and be patient as the county is able to afford to roll it out.
I just want to make sure we're not breaking any rules by being there together.
Yep. All right, super. Thank you.
So we're going to shoot for the first meeting in June.
Yes. And I'll look up the date. If you don't have it.
June 6th or 13? June 6th is the first Tuesday of June.
It should be 13.
13.
The second and fourth, usually.
I'm looking it up right now, assuming that my calendar is correct, which is always correct.
time would it be?
Probably 9 o'clock.
It is the 6th.
6th?
Sounds like June 6th, though. June 6th, not May 23rd, June 6th.
Are you going? I thought it was. We're trying to hit it where I could be here.
We just changed it.
We're talking about when are you planning to jump in? So this will be,
Okay, moving on, old business.
Okay, one thing that's not on here that I thought I would bring up again is, I think we talked about this a couple months ago, the PED gates next to the sheriff's office building at Inverness Airport. The locks are in bad shape, so we started the process of replacing those, and at the same time, I remember that we've been having problems with the one at the DQ and the main one and the PED gate next to the main entrance to the Christopher Airport. So there's 4 of them that I have a fencing contractor took measurements. I purchased the new locks and the boxes that the locks go in. They picked those up to try and fabricate those, but the person they used to fabricate them, haven't gotten a final answer from them, was reluctant to do it. So this is something that's been in the works for several months, trying to get these things fixed. And the guy I deal with a lot, Scott, he said, if I have to, I'm going to bring this back to you. You're going to have to find someone else to do it. So I haven't heard. That was last Friday. So anyway, we're trying to get them fixed. It's in process. The 927 GPS approaches, that is still ongoing. Just some snag with the survey. I believe AID, they are the next item. The 1836 markings displaced threshold issue. As you know, that data has to be updated in the FAA database. We contracted AID to do that. They actually have a meeting with the FAA this afternoon to discuss that, and I'm sure she'll be discussing the 927 GPS issue as well. Because when we did that project, that was part of the runway safety project where we displaced the threshold. That's been a year and a half ago or more, and the FAA took a lot of time to review it. So anyway, it's not resolved yet, but it's much bigger than what the consultant anticipated it should have been when we started that project. I mean, typically it was a simple process just to update that, and some changes happened at the FAA, and so it's still ongoing. So I covered those first 2 issues. The FBO maintenance and improvements, I think we discussed that enough, and the workshop will be tentatively June 6th. The hangar land leases, that is also on the agenda for the workshop on June 6th. The Godfrey Lane power line ball markers, I sent that agreement from Duke to legal a week or so ago, and waiting to hear back from them on that agreement. Were you going to say something?
Those power lines are nothing compared to the power lines that we cross when we land on 3-6.
3-6.
There are power lines on the south side of Venable that now that the trees have been cleared, you can see them. And it's like, ooh, let's bring the airplane up just a little bit. There are power lines on the south side of Venable or north side?
They're on the north side.
On the north side of Venable. So the threshold is displaced. If you're making a proper approach to the runway, you're going to be fine. But there are power lines there.
I don't think there's power lines there.
I just flew over them the other day.
You sure you weren't coming in from the north? And
You've done this before, right?
Once or twice. I'm pretty sure I was going north.
We need the trees back.
Yeah, we're gonna need the trees back till we can.
It's way too good rainy season. They'll be back.
Without the trees, we couldn't see the power line. It wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
You hit the tree before
You would have taken the top off of one of the trees, but much long before you hit.
Exactly. So while we're talking balls, if we get this thing going, and I'm not saying we need to, but if we were to put some orange balls up somewhere, I would encourage the county to look at the north end of that runway. Because that's.
North end, you mean the south end? on
I'm sorry,
Downward.
yes,
I
my
told you,
direction.
north side.
See, I'm on the, I have no sense of direction when I'm on the ground, I'm sorry.
I think that's necessary.
I know.
You sure it's not just the 3 strands of barbed wire? You're coming in low, sir.
Several hundred feet off the ground, could be barbed wire, I'm not sure.
Point out that there were a whole bunch of guy pilots looking for balls.
No comment.
All right, I have to be out there tomorrow. I'm going to take a look at that because that is not ringing a bell for me that there's power lines there. Unless it's something with the recent construction with the new traffic light, but I don't think. Okay, I'll look into it, sir. Where we land was traffic pattern. I guess Andy, he would have spoke up if he had an update on that. Are you still listening, Andy?
Yes, I'm sorry. Say that again.
We're on the old business item, traffic patterns and excessive aircraft noise status.
Yeah. What would you like? Was there any action items we need to do?
Do you have an update on that issue?
Airplanes make noise. I mean, we could keep this agenda item open. I don't know what sort of deliverable you're looking for from me. Looking for from me. The AWAS, as far as I know, has not been fixed yet. So that's still not working. That would be the one deliverable we can do is updating the AWAS again. But at the moment, it's pretty much in op anyways.
So you've not put those silencers on the engines yet?
On some of the quietest aircraft that you can purchase, yeah.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. And you can't stop the helicopters from going on the other side of the airport either, can you?
No, in fact, that's because then they have to because the traffic pattern that was established for fixed wing aircraft.
Yep. All right.
When you're done with that, I wanted to go back to the hangar releases.
Sure. I mean, I think we can take this item off the agenda.
Agreed.
They're doing what they can with it. Okay.
Okay, and since he mentioned it, I just want to mention that the AWAS repair maintenance guy was just there, I think, 2 days ago. So hopefully it's fixed. I will double check with him to make sure. One of the issues was that the clock was off by 12 seconds or 12 minutes. And if you remember that gentleman that was here talked about that. Right. I mentioned that to Ward when I first talked to him after our meeting at that time, and he said, yes, for some reason that instrument, it speeds up over time. So he will, hopefully he reset it, but he addressed the other issues. Let me just talk a little more about that because the AWAS is that one computer board that he said we likely needed. The new cost for that computer board alone is $17,000. But he had some that one of his other airport customers or friends had some brand new ones that, like I have a box of parts upstairs for the AWASs. When we installed the unit, it was recommended you buy certain parts and have them on hand. So you cycle them out as you need them. So somebody had these extra boards that were brand new. He was going to try and install those a couple of days ago to see, and I haven't heard otherwise that that didn't fix it. So I will touch base since Andy brought it up. I will touch base again with him and make sure that everything got fixed like it should have. But talking to him about this, the AWASs, we're probably going to something we're going to add into the CIP because the one at Crystal River was put in around 2012, so it's 11 years old. He said they're good for about 15 before you start paying too much to fix it. And the one at Inverness we put in around 2006 or 7, so it's 15 years old. So we're probably going to put that in our CIP, possibly this one, to see about getting those replaced in the next couple of years. I've already talked to FAA. We could certainly use. We have bill money that's coming, BIL money coming each year. We've only received it last year and this year. We've been saving that for a bigger project because you don't want to try and find a place to spend $150,000 or $190,000. I think it's actually more than that. Entitlement funds are $150,000. So anyway, I already talked to FAA, we could use that bill money or entitlement funds to do these AWASs, so it won't be a big hit to our budget because FAA will pay 90%. So, but these AWASs, now it's a monopoly. There's only one company in the country that makes the full-blown AWAS, and another airport went out to bid recently and was around $330,000 for an AWAS now. So everything's doubling. So I think the last one we did, which was at Crystal River, was around 2, if I remember right, but we did a fair amount of land clearing with that. So.
Okay,
Commissioner.
please.
So in the 2 years that I've been on this job, I have learned to very, very, very much appreciate and respect the professionalism of the people who do this job full-time. Staff, there's 4 of them sitting here. That being said, I am a representative of citizens, elected representative of citizens. You are an appointed representative of citizens, right? So the people whose back you have are your fellow citizens, not staff, not fellow pilots. So I would like you to give me your opinion in that vein. Give me your opinion as to whether we need to go ahead and have the airport ground leases brought back to the board. They were pulled by Chairman Schlebaugh. Have that pulled back now and not wait until the workshop, because if the workshop is June 6th, we are not going to be able to vote on them until June 20th. So that is an over 3-month delay, and I'm a little concerned about that from a blocking what is normal business, okay? So that's number one, the timing of that. And I can't ask for it. You guys can, but I can't, okay? The second part of that is to look at the way we came about this. We had a 25-year lease with 5 5-year extensions. That's 50 years that if you build a hangar that the county owns it, but you get use of that hangar for 50 years. Some arguments have been brought forward to me about the ROI, that we need to make the ROI good for those hangars. There is 15 bazillion different ways to count ROI on, because it's very individual to the project, the location, etc., right? So what I feel like we need to do is to go by what is the competitive set. We need to be competitive with other counties in the state of Florida as to what we charge or how long the lease terms can be, right? So, what did staff come back with? They did a study and
The average is 25 and 2 5-year periods.
So the
35
average is
years.
at most 35 years. And we were suggesting that we come in at 35, correct?
This last go around, yes.
Okay. So that's 2 different things that I would say that's up to you as if you choose to accept this challenge, as citizen representatives, to do your own homework and double check what staff did. You know, look into other counties in the state of Florida. If 35 years is competitive, then is that what we should recommend? That's question 1. And question 2 is, should we get this done sooner than 3 months from now? So we're not holding up people building hangars. I don't personally think, but this is not strong opinion here, okay? I personally don't think that this is such long ball thinking, like what land we're leasing out and whatnot, that we shouldn't just go ahead and go with it versus waiting for the workshop. That's my 2 cents, and it's over to the chair.
Well done. Quincy, we said that the average is 35 years. What is the high end of the counties we surveyed?
I'll have to look at that again, and maybe I should have worded that better. The norm is 35. We're going to call that the average or the norm, but I'd have to look. What I did was, because we're a member of the Florida Airports Council, I put out a request to them. They send out a request to all 125 airports in the state. Don't generally get that many responses, but between that and calling a few local ones, I have a list, and I can provide that to you all of how much time each airport has on their leases. But the number was clearly 35 years. Now, whether there's a high outlier is what you're asking, I'd have to look at that data again.
So my concern in coming in average or normal is that we're no better than anybody else. And at that point, They can either choose to come here, or they can choose to build elsewhere. Maybe they find somebody that's a little bit above the norm and go and get a better return on investment at this other county that's not too far away. Whereas if we come in above the norm, that makes us more attractive than other counties to these investors. And at that point, maybe it's something that's, that will motivate them more so to come here than they otherwise might. That's my concern with going with the norm, the 25 plus 2 5-year extensions. We had a recommendation last time. Carl went to the trouble of going to the BOCC meeting and presenting our feelings on this. I don't know that anything has changed with respect to with the board's feeling.
So I was there. I was ready to present, and then the chair of the commission pulled. Once the chair pulled what topic I was there to speak on behalf of this board, I felt like my ability to be able to voice or communicate was terminated because of my instructions were, here's the letter, and if I'm pulled from being able to speak on behalf of that letter, I did not feel I could speak. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're absolutely correct that there was no voting item for you to speak specifically to, but we have open to the public at the beginning and at the end, and you can get up there and recite War and Peace for 3 minutes for all we care. Some people have done things like that were quite less entertaining. So you could have done it, and I would say from a commission standpoint, the more you get in front of us and hammer a point home, so that was a missed opportunity. So in the future, go ahead and speak. And then when it comes back before us, speak again. And then a whole bunch of you show up and all speak on it, right? So I will, and also to your point, I know Mary Jensen said no one in Florida is at 50. And I don't think anyone is at 45, and I'm not sure anyone's at 40. Your point is well taken. If you go to 40, that might be an acceptable compromise to remain highly competitive without giving away the store. Otherwise known as taxpayer dollars. So.
If I may say, just to reiterate, I have $5 million that I went to seek that I got approval for based on the lease terms that were provided to the Lambs, which is 50-year term. If the term changes to 35, that $5 million investment will be going to another county.
Try to 40.
Andy, can you hear me? I would suggest that you tell us what county has better terms than 40.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear because there's.
The question is whether a 40-year lease would entice them to stay, and if not, what county has better terms than that?
Most likely not. What happened was the Board of County Commissioners previously approved a lease that has a 50-year term, and the Lambs and Dr. Montgomery were able to execute that lease. And knowing that it was approved, that's what I went and sold. It's very difficult to find $5 million in funding privately when there's no collateral, because as soon as you build the building, it gets turned over. So it's very difficult to find that funding. I don't happen to have $5 million in my account. But the funding it would either go to another county or go away, because I can't go back and change the terms. That they wouldn't approve that.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure? We can recommend that the board take this up again at 40 years.
Yes.
Clearly, they're not comfortable with 50, and we can see if the powers that be would reach out to Dr. Montgomery and his partners and see if a 40-year lease would work for them.
Well, their lease their lease has already been executed, the Lambs and Dr. Montgomery's leases. But I will again reiterate a point I made last time because Commissioner Davis was not here last time. But the lease terms that the county offered prior to Dr. Montgomery's, prior to the new lease, made it such that no one, not a single hangar, a private hangar was funded or built at the Inverness Airport in more than 25 years. So the question is, do we want to encourage economic development through policies that incentivize people to come and build and invest in the county? Or do we want to have policies such as we did before, where for 25 years, not a single privately funded structure was built on the Inverness Airport?
Got it.
I got a question. When we say 50 years, we're really thinking 30-year leases with a possibility of renewals 5 years increments. Is that right?
25-year lease with
25 with 5 year.
five-year
Yeah.
extensions.
I don't,
And I'd like to respond to what Andy said. That's not totally correct. The M hangars, we call the M hangars, it's a 6-unit nested T-hanger building, was built in the mid-'80s. I believe it was like a 22-year lease.
25.
25. And there's 3 box hangars on the north end that were built with land leases, and I don't think the terms for those were 50-year. And part of the reason why things weren't really happening at the airport was because we had a short runway, and there was just not a lot of development that's been happening at the Inverness Airport for many years. I mean, so when we finally started moving with the runway extension and getting the land from the city to extend the runway and build the new FBO down on north end, that's all been happening pretty steadily since 2004. And the runway extension was done in 2010. So there wasn't a lot of room until we opened up the south end to do a lot. So, and there wasn't many persons coming to the county asking for land leases until the last 5 years or so. So it's not because of, we had, honestly, 20, 15 years ago, we didn't have a land lease term per se. When certain things would come up, we would work something out. For example, when I started here, we had the medical helicopter folks on the north end. They left a couple years later, and then another medical helicopter company was interested, and we worked a lease with them and gave them a lease. So it was kind of, as people came, we would work out the terms. So just wanted to state that.
Thank you. Holly?
I want to.
If I may clarify.
No,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
hey, hang on, Andy.
I want to thank Mr. Carr, Charlie, for pointing out the elephant in the room. It's really a 25-year lease, period, full stop.
Yeah.
All of these are 25-year leases, including the other counties. They're 25-year leases. They are not 50-year. They are not 40-year. They are not 30-year. They're 25-year leases because we're 5 commissioners. Other counties have more commissioners who are elected every 4 years. We, at any point in time, could have a dysfunctional board that yanks a lease, right?
or
So
refuses
it's-
to extend it.
Well, that's what I mean, choose to
Yeah.
not extend it. So 25 years is actually the only thing that's actionable on any of this contractually. So I would almost say if you really, I mean, just a spitball idea is to look at a longer first term lease and a shorter back end. You know, maybe it's extendable for only one 10-year period, but the first one is 30 years or whatever, 2 5-year periods.
From a business perspective, though, I would say that the 25 plus 5 5s would be more attractive because most businesses can't tell you what's going to happen in 25 years in their business. So,
But that's an asset that they can lease. If they're no longer using it, they can lease that asset and they have theoretical control over it for 50 years. If the county continues to extend it by 5-year increments. So clearly it's something that I would deeply love y'all to dig into, to really dig into and come up with a really good plan and be at the workshop, because we have a lot on our plate as commissioners, and I'm the only pilot sitting up there. So it's going to end up falling on me, and I'm just one brain. So I'd love to hear what y'all come up with.
So to be clear, it's a 25-year lease with X number of 5-year renewables, and those
Yep.
extensions are by mutual consent. Either party can say no.
I'm not sure.
That was going to be my question. Typically, it's that by offering those 5-year extensions, that the tenant, the person leasing it, can choose to exercise that option, and the county does not have the say. If they choose to exercise it, then it moves
believe
forward.
that's the way
That's
new-
typically how those leases. That's why you
Okay.
have the option. Otherwise, they're not worth the paper they're printed on.
I had heard something else, but who knows? We don't have an attorney in the room, so
Yeah.
God help us all. They're the ones who keep us straight.
So that's the rub. Is to Charlie's
my
point, like
understanding, yeah.
if they can just terminate it, it's only a 25-year term. Well, if they have the option, we're then contractually obligated. If they choose to exercise that option, we're stuck with it for a period of 50
The
years.
whole point of the ROI, I thought, was that the tenant has the certainty that for X number of times, he can renew that lease entirely at his option. And that's where he gets the certainty of
Got
the
it.
ROI.
That does make more sense,
but he
but
doesn't
I
have
could
to.
swear I was just told that we can bail after 25, but
And after 2 5-year leases, extensions, let's say that's all it is, 25 plus two extensions, both parties could still mutually agree to extend the lease.
There's just no guarantee
There's
up
just no
front.
guarantee on the part of the tenant that the county's not going to kick him out.
right.
Got it.
All right. I have definitely dropped in way too much into this meeting. Thank you.
So it seems to me that what makes the most sense is to get in touch with the potential hangar builders, the potential lessors, and see what might work for them. That would also work for the board, and see if we can't get something mutually agreeable on the next county agenda.
If I had a lease in place, I wouldn't talk to you about changing it.
But you don't have a lease in place. They don't have a lease in place.
Several of them do.
A lease in place.
Yeah.
I think we're just talking about the new one. They keep referencing.
Dr. Montgomery has a lease in place.
Right.
Existing.
Yeah,
And
they're
that's
not
what
talking
we're
about
talking about.
changing
We're
that.
talking
This
about
is
a
a
new
this
lease.
is a new one only.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but okay. Tell me what you said again.
Okay, what I'm saying is, I would suggest that we reach out to the gentleman that wants to, or that want to have this new lease, enter into this new lease to build these new hangars, and see what sort of terms, short of 50 years, might be acceptable to them. And then come up with a compromise between what the board is currently suggesting and what it is that they are wanting, what they thought they had, quite frankly, but apparently don't. And see if there's something in the middle that can be worked out. All we can do is ask. Now, if the Board of County Commissioners has put a marker down, as have the potential lessors, and so let's see if we can come up with something that would make them both happy. I'd be more than happy to reach out to the powers that be on the lessor side and see what might work for them. That's short of 50 years. Everybody good with that? Okay. Moving on.
Okay, the last one we talked about the Austin Healy thing already, so that's done. Inverness, we have 4 vacancies, working on filling those. And actually, Crystal River, that's changed already. We now have 2 soon-to-be vacancies, but I already have 2 people interested in those 2 hangars. Crystal Rivers always goes fast. So we should not have a vacancy at Crystal River for long. Board of County Commissioner updates. A lot of these we've talked about. Acknowledgement of the hangar lease agreements. This is just when we have a renewal of a T-hangar lease or a new T-hangar lease. This is just putting it on the board's agenda for their acknowledgement. They're generally already approved by the county administrator. The parking lot project, the grant budget resolution went to the board. I just got the account numbers from OMB this morning, so I'll be cutting POs for to the contractor and to our engineering inspector company to get that project rolling. Inverness Business Industrial Park FDO grant, that was approved by the board. I sent it back up to DEO for their full execution, and I have not received that back yet. The revised land lease template, we've talked about that one. Airport FBO list of improvements, we talked about that one. Cattle grazing lease was approved, and that should be for, I believe, a 5-year period. However, we do have language in there, just for your information, that if we need the property for a business park or airport development, we'll be able to deduct that portion from his land lease. Security camera is in process. I sent Danae the information this morning or yesterday. So the requisition has been entered, so we'll be getting that done soon, hopefully. A new development kind of did this last, well, it's been there for about a week and I didn't see it till today, so that was my bad, but I had to approve this agenda item. The sheriff's office building, which is next to their hangar at the Inverness Airport, their lease has expired, and this is just a renewal going on the March 28th agenda. Nominate and appoint members.
What was that again?
Pardon, Andy?
What lease was that?
That was the sheriff's office building lease. The building.
Do we intend to have the sheriff uphold their end of the lease, or are we going to continue to allow them not to do so?
Well, I know what you're saying. Technically, this is for the office building. That language is not in this lease. That's in the corporate hangar or the maintenance hangar building lease. But we could certainly reach out to the captain about your concerns. If you could send me an email explaining your past experience with contacting them and trying to get them on site for certain issues, and I could forward that up to see how we're going to address that.
Yeah, it's just, if it was another tenant and they didn't, withhold their end of the bargain on the lease, the county would take action. Here, we're choosing not to take action. And as a result, that is the major flaw in the security plan, is we don't have airport security, even though we have it contractually obligated, but they're not following their end of the contract.
We'll reach out to them and see what they have to say in response to that.
Moving on.
Nominate and appoint members to the Aviation Advisory Board. That's going.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's going to the board next Tuesday for to nominate and appoint 3 new members. Is it?
Okay, and that is next Tuesday. And do we know who the applicants are?
Yes, but I don't have the list.
There's only one. Okay.
I just reviewed his application. It looks like he would be a quality individual to add to the board.
This is for District 2?
There's
Where-
one for
where Mark
District
was,
2,
okay.
but we have 2 other positions that are open that I don't think were approved last time either.
Right.
How many open spots?
There's
3
3
total.
open spots. District 2, District 3, and at large. Luis and I,
So none of them were
You
approved.
need to hammer me on this because I have people asking about it, and I'm like, I don't know where we are.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the financial assistance agreement for the runway extension, there was one issue with that. The legal has already approved it. There was language in that one that in the original, the first draft of that we were only going to be seeking 3.2 acres from the golf course, and we're actually seeking 10.2. So they just fixed that this morning, and we swapped out that document in the agenda packet. So that is going through approvals today for the March 28th meeting as well. That's the $7.1 million financial assistance grant to do the runway extension. And along those lines, I guess I can talk about it. Then I'll talk about that in the next section. If you'd like me to move on, Mr. Chairman. Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, Crystal River runway extension, that's obviously tied to the, the EA. We had AID working on a scope. It took several months to not even get it from them, so I pulled that project from them and gave it to another continuing services consultant. We had that draft scope from them within 2 weeks, and that is, I drafted a work authorization 2 days ago, yesterday, for the approval of that, which is now being routed through different departments here for approval, and then that will have to go on the BOCC agenda. Today was a deadline for the 28th, so it's not going to make it for that one. Hopefully it'll make it for the next one to start that EA. Goodness, talking about cost of things. That's phase one of the EA. It's about $230,000. Of course, we can't start that until the board approves the grant agreement and the budget resolution, and we get that fully executed by DOT. So everything has still been hinging on getting that agreement from DOT and getting it finalized.
May I just point out the most important date of all?
Yes, ma'am.
Fall of '24 is when we're looking at groundbreaking. I got the full briefing today because I'm giving a speech tonight. So,
excellent.
Dad just had to hang on one more year.
That's optimistic, but we can make it. The EA will take 12 to 18 months.
Right.
But at a certain point in that EA process, when the FA blesses what we intend to build, we can start to design. We don't have to wait till 18th month to start design. So hopefully the stars will line up.
And hopefully the 12 to 18 will be closer to 12 than 18.
Yes, and that's very possible.
Let's be sure that we do whatever we can to get things on the board's agenda as absolutely quickly as possible.
Yes.
I mean, not just about this, but in general. You know, I hate to miss deadlines for no reason other than we didn't get that last comma in the document in time. Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Along the lines of this project, Walt and I had a Zoom meeting with an attorney this morning to start the land lease process, because we hope it doesn't go eminent domain. The golf course property owner seems very amenable to selling, so hopefully we can come to agreeable terms pretty quickly and save that whole process. So we're moving forward with the land lease portion as well at this time. The fuel tanks replacement, we have the requisition in to get the PO approved for that, so we can get that design underway. Crystal River wetland removal and wildlife study, as y'all recall, we need to do an EA for the wetland removal, and that was tied into or combined with the EA for the runway extension. So when that EA gets going, it'll be also for the wetland removal. But on a side note, FAA was requiring that we do a 12-month wildlife study, which, as you know, we started in January. And so they'll be collecting data for 12 months and then writing a report. I got another email this morning stating what days he'll be there this month. I know today and tomorrow are 2 days, and then 2 more days later this month, he's out there counting birds and bunnies and so forth. The next one, airspace study, obstruction removal, that we're trying to get that out to bid pretty quick because the FAA's deadline for the final grant application is May 3, I think. So the engineer is finalizing the plans. I drafted a work authorization and sent it through. That's in management budget office, purchasing office. They're the ones that puts the projects out to bid. So I spoke with her about that yesterday. She's working on that. Hopefully we can get that out by the end of the month so we can get our bids in, so we can get the final grant applications submitted to the FAA. This is, again, for obstructions only on the airfield. So And some of the concern there is, of course, it's almost all tree removal. And at this point, I'll go ahead and say this now, it looks like we may have to cut down all the trees in the animal shelter. So hopefully the commissioners can get the animal shelter built.
It's also in my speech tonight.
So, all right, then the parking lot project, I think I already mentioned that I got the account numbers this morning. I'll be cutting POs for getting that project going. And the business park, again, I mentioned from just during the Board of County Commission action items, I sent the DEO amendment number 2 back to them for final execution, and then we can get that project going too. AID, who will be doing the CEI, construction engineering and inspection services and construction administration services for that project, is coming out next Friday to just do a ground view, just take a look at things and discuss before we meet, pull together a pre-construction meeting to get that project going. And I believe I mentioned at the last meeting that we did draft House and Senate appropriation forms for $9 million to finish that project. So they've been submitted up to our lobbyists in Tallahassee. So that they're going through the system now.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Carl, did you have an opportunity to attend the CFAS?
I was not able to attend.
Okay, then we can't expect a report from you on that.
Sorry,
meeting
sir.
today.
No, sir.
Very well. Okay. Guys, I think that's all we have. I think that, Quincy, I want to take this thing with the sheriff's lease offline with you and talk about the security concerns that Andy brought up. And I think we need to decide exactly what it is we're going to be able to do with these land leases. We can talk about that as well. And see if I can get a hold of the gentleman that's trying to lease this land and trying to get better terms than what the county's offering, and see what will work for them. See if we can come up with something in the middle.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? Looks as though the county will be appointing 3 new members, so this may be our last meeting together. You never know what's going to happen, what these county commissioners will do.
You should have brought them donuts.
I tell you.
Next Tuesday.
That's right. Otherwise, April 13th, our lucky day. Friday the 13th comes on a Thursday next month. So we'll see you guys then. Anybody else have anything?
Move adjourned.
Okay, well, Charlie moves, we adjourn. Second.
Second.
Carl seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.